Hi there, Bill Hitchcock. Welcome to a special presentation. And the reason why this is special is quite literally 5 minutes ago, the General Assembly just ended an hour-long press conference on not only HB422, but HB441, which was if 442 had passed, or I don't know yet, then 441 would kick in, which is compensating shrimpers for putting them out of business. You're about to see, it's an hour long. I'm going to break it up into two parts, and I want you to see all of it. I'm not going to edit this outside of breaking it up in the middle for time so I can do a second part, and I'm not going to editorialize it like you're going to have everybody else do, pull their little snippets, their little news reports, and then put in their commentary. I want you to see the sausage being made. You may recall in yesterday's show, I said I'm after one thing, the truth. And this is a very unique press conference in that you have both senators and House representatives and Republicans and Democrats and outside entities as well. So this was done live in Raleigh today, Tuesday, June 24th. This is about House Bill 442 and the amendment to ban shrimp trawling from 5 miles out in the ocean all the way on in. And it also relates to House Bill 441. Let's get into the first half of it right now.
The shrimping industry is the backbone of North Carolina seafood industry. Most people know that. If you don't know it, I just told you. And to eliminate trawling in the inner banks will effectively destroy the whole system. The industry will be gone. You won't be able to pull up anywhere and get you some shrimp like I did last Saturday. Come home with 2 great big bags. Gave them to my wife. She said, "You want me to cook these tonight?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "I will right now." So, and they were good. I won't point out the person that gave them to me because I don't want to get him in trouble. But anyhow, the seafood industry, we don't need for it to be eliminated. We need the trawling to be protected in the inner banks. We put thousands of hard-working North Carolinians out of work if we allow this to happen, this to continue on. We're talking about generations of shrimpers, generations of fishermen. And I got to also say fisherwomen, right? Because the men who are fishermen can't go out in that boat in the morning unless the fisherwoman has cooked them some sausage and eggs. Is that right? I'm going to watch him all the time because he's steady, doing like this, talking about food. Yeah. But we're talking about generations of shrimpers who have done this their whole life. This is all they've done. And we have no right to take that away from them. That's true no matter what anybody says. Today we will hear from House members, shrimpers, and scientists who have a good handle on this subject. Now I'm going to get out of the way and let somebody else talk from here who is involved in this thing, even though he's not as tall as I am and as young as I am, Representative Frank Island.
Well, you got those two things right. Good morning. I'm going to update you on House Bill 442 and 441. You've heard lots of opinions and fake news. I'm going to give you some fact news about how this works, about the process that it went through. I'm going to speak mostly to the process, where the bill's passed by large margins in the House and landing in a certain Senate committee. They were then hijacked for other purposes, without the courtesy of consulting with the #1 primary sponsor, which is customary. That was Representative Isler's, me. You can figure out who was complicit in this. House Bill 442, restore flounder red snapper season, passed 77 to 35 in the House, very bipartisan. Where it landed May 8th in the Senate Rules Committee almost 7 weeks ago, May 8th. Then the sharks got hold of it, euphemism, and added a provision that would put 75% of our shrimp industry and the impact of small businesses out of shrimp. People come to the coast for fresh shrimp. I was actually part of a food distribution company that actually had to sell frozen shrimp to the coast. I never did, but some of my colleagues did on the coast because the fresh shrimp was so rare, and they really are, but thank goodness we've got an industry. As much as I wanted a flounder season, which was in this bill, I urge everyone this year, which none last year, urge everyone to vote to oppose the bill every chance they get, whether it's in rules, not concur on the floor or whatever. This was a compromise bill that hurt no one when it went over. And it comes back, it's hurt a lot of folks. House Bill 441, loggerhead turtle state saltwater reptile, passed 113 to nothing. It passed in 2019, 2021, 2023, and stalled in Senate Rules Committee. Interesting, isn't it? And it stalled this year for 7 weeks again. And it was hijacked and totally stripped out to put in another bill. It would tell shrimpers they have to pay, that they will pay them off. Your taxes, I guess, will pay them off. We'll pay them off for a few years and tell them not to shrimp, then put them out of business, not just right away. We're used to the Senate acting this way, but not to this degree. At least I have not seen it to this degree. They can put in a clean bill, debate it, and see if it passes on the merits, not hijack House bills at the last minute and deny input or criticism for their actions. All the primary sponsors have removed their names from these bills. It's not my bill. They own it. And I urge about my bills, plural, and I urge the co-sponsors to quickly do the same thing. Secretary Troxler sent us an email, said he's responsible for agriculture and aquaculture, and he's vehemently opposed to anything like this. And I've got a colleague that wants to speak, Representative Pricey Harrison, and she's arrived.
Ms. Harrison sits on the other side of the aisle in the chamber. I know when you find that out, you say, well, what in the world are Republicans doing talking to her? Well, ever since I've been coming up here for right many years now, I don't mind talking to her. She doesn't mind talking to me. I think she's the most studious person that's in the building. Everybody's looking at me. You really believe that? Yes, I do. Well, she talks about some of the things that are in outer space, and sometimes we had to talk to her at this level on the ground and get her grounded and so she can go again. But listen to what Pricey has. She studies stuff a whole lot longer than most of us. Thank you, Pricey.
Thanks. Thank you all for being here. And thank you for including me. I represent Goodwin. So I represent Guilford County. You're wondering what I'm doing here talking about the coast, but I've spent a lot of my childhood on the coast and lived there post some DC law practice, and well, sort of fell in love with the coast, fell in love with watching the shrimp trawlers go down Taylor's Creek, and loved seeing the blessing of the fleet, that huge crowd of boats coming to and from Harker's Island and Morehead City. And I'm very fond of the cultural heritage that is associated with men and women living off the sea. And I have, kind of as a result, been fighting these net bans for 30 years. And I call them net bans because that's basically what they've tried to do in other states, and the same efforts are ongoing here in North Carolina, including this trawling ban. So my background, which I think gives me some perspective, is I sat on the Duke and the Carolina Marine Sciences boards, talked a lot to the scientists there who had input and interest in this issue, and always convinced me that a ban was not necessary in North Carolina because of the way we manage fish. I also sat on the Coastal Resources Commission for many years and the Marine Fisheries Commission's Water Quality and Habitat Committee when we finally started thinking about environmental aspects of the fisheries and making it sustainable. So first and foremost, this is not an environmental issue. This is an allocation issue. And in fact, if we were focused on the environment and its impact on the sustainability of the fish, we'd be talking about water quality, we'd be talking about coastal development, we'd be talking about protecting our wetlands, restoring our buffers, instead of going in the opposite direction. And the big elephant in the room, the climate crisis, because it is raising the temperatures of the estuaries and the ocean, creating ocean acidification, and that is actually what's affecting the access to the fish the most. So I think that's a really important point because that's what I keep hearing. And I also wanted to say, I was scrawling out my notes before this started. So on this allocation issue, I will say quite frankly that the UN, this General Assembly is not equipped to handle these allocation issues. These are more suitably dealt with by the agencies. With the Fisheries Reform Act in 1997, we put together stakeholder committees. We have fishers, we have enviros, we have recreational, coastal scientists, agency folks. Those are the ones that understand the issue, and those are the ones that should be making these decisions. They shouldn't get up here where it's completely political. And I can't assert that strongly enough because having stakeholder input is how you get to a good decision, not dropping a bomb on a bill that has hardly been considered and hasn't included the public that need to weigh in and the stakeholders that were most impacted by this bill. So first I want to debunk this 4-to-1 falsehood about the bycatch ratio. That is not the case at all. The individual who made that point has indicated since that he made that under pressure and that it wasn't based on fact. What is the fact is that the Marine Fisheries Commission has imposed 2 bycatch excluder devices, one for finfish and one for turtle. It has been almost 100% effective for the turtles, maybe 70% reduction in the bycatch. But I've actually been on a trawler, unlike most of my colleagues in the chamber, and I've seen the minimum amount of bycatch that has happened since these excluder devices have been added. And you also want to debunk another fact, because I hear this from my colleagues who say this is a great bill, is that we're the only state that allows inshore trawling. That's not true. Other states have restored it, including South Carolina, Virginia, Georgia. But it's actually wrong to compare us to other coastal states because we've got more estuarine acreage than any other state in the United States. And I think that that is an important point that the scientists at Duke and Carolina kept enforcing to me, as this is emphasizing to me, because this is what distinguishes us from other states. So we've got millions of acreage of estuarine water that are ripe with fishing opportunities, and they have closed off. The Marine Fisheries agencies Department of Marine Fisheries and the Marine Fisheries Commission have closed off the most sensitive areas. So you can't access primary nursery areas. You can't access secondary nursery areas. You can't access sensitive submerged aquatic vegetation, which is important habitat. And so we've got the restrictions in place, and we've got a different situation here. And you see a lot of people here in this room who are making a living off the water, and we'll see a bunch more in the gallery. And that's what we can't lose here, is that we're looking at a very different situation. So, and also it's important to point out that the fleet's been drastically reduced. Since these restrictions have been put in place, we've gone down 85%, 24,000 trips to 3,600, 1,285 shrimp boats to 294 in the most recent accounting. And that's a significant decrease. So I feel obviously quite passionately about this. I'm probably as stressed as everyone in this room about what this means to them. So I just urge all of you listening to vote no on this bad bill. Thank you.
Yes.
You know, when this many people get together and talk about something that is really pushing us and everything, you got to have a lawyer somewhere. So this lawyer has volunteered to talk about something that is really disturbing him. I don't know what it is, but he's going to tell us.
Nobody likes a lawyer till you need one. Now, my name is Ted Davis, Jr. I represent House District 20, which is in New Hanover County. Without getting to the merits of either bill, I'm here because I am very upset about what happened to these 2 bills. Both of them passed the House. They went to the Senate without showing Representative Eiler the courtesy or the respect of letting him know what they were going to do, or myself, or Representative Goodwin, or Representative Kidwell when it came to House Bill 441. And that's not right. They should have come to us. They should have told us what they wanted to do. They wanted to see if we were okay with it. And if we were, we could have moved on together, but they didn't. And I can't hold to that. So that's why I'm here to show my support with Representative Eiler. Thank you.
Thank you. We got somebody to talk about science and the process. Ms. Dee Lupton, former Deputy Director, Division of Marine Fisheries. She's retired, but she's willing to work.
First, I want to thank everybody for inviting me today. I am Dee Lupton. I'm a lifelong resident of Pamlico County. I'm a marine biologist, and I did retire from the Division of Marine Fisheries. I do not represent them today. I'm not a member of either side, any advocacy group at all, but I am concerned about what I've seen and the comments I've heard about the data and the process. So first, I am going to probably read my statements more. I am opposed to the amendment of House Bill 442. I do not support the elimination of inshore trawls. My objection is based on data, science, and process.
Yeah.
In our country, there's an effort to reduce these types of additional regulations on the commercial fishing industry. The bill is an overregulation to the point of an elimination of an already heavily regulated industry that goes directly against a national effort. North Carolina shrimp fishery is one of the top commercial fisheries in North Carolina annually. The number of boats that participate and the number of trips these boats take actually have decreased over time. There's not that many boats out there. In 2002, there was 4.7 million pounds of shrimp. That's about $10 million in ex-vessel price. That's not the added value. It's below wholesale, actually, that the fishermen get from these shrimp. That was from 280 vessels that took 2,785 trips. Just 10 years ago, there was 416 vessels that took over 6,000 trips. So that shows a decrease in this industry that's already taken. Recreationally, there's been a lot of talk about, well, you know, our fisheries are in a state that they can't, there's not enough fish and the anglers are leaving the state. That is not true. North Carolina and Florida and North Carolina, I'll put it in the right order, ranked first and second in total estimated fish caught recreationally and trips taken in 2022. This is directly from NOAA Fisheries data. Together, marine and recreational anglers in Florida and North Carolina caught almost more fish in total than the rest of the country combined. So our fisheries are vibrant, even with the regulations that are out there. I want to speak on the process and some of the data, the science, and the process. First, we can't be compared to other states. We're often compared to South Carolina, Virginia, and other states along the south, especially southeast and Gulf. But we have the 1997 Fisheries Reform Act. The state does. It requires the adoption of fishery management plans. Those plans are for all commercially and recreationally significant fisheries. This is the law. So the state has to manage these fisheries. There's not a choice. That's already the law on the books. And in those plans, it includes conservation and management measures that will provide the greatest overall benefit to the state, particularly with the respect of food production, recreational opportunities, and protection of marine ecosystems. And these fish still have to be managed at a sustainable level. So the laws already protect these fish. Fishery management plans are already written to protect these fish. These other states don't have this type of law that requires this type of management to deter. Some of them may not even know the true status of their fish, and that's their state. That's fine for them. So you can't compare us to them because it's just a different system on how we manage. So, you know, at times our fish are assigned a stock status, and that stock status may be different than another state, or that other state doesn't even have a stock status. So that's what's different. The data and science the data and science are in the fishery management plans, and that is what shapes the fishery management plans. And a wholesale shrimp trawl for inshore fishing has not been an adopted management. There's been 6 FMPs made, FMPs, amendments, revisions. There have been regulations in those FMPs that have restricted the shrimp. But a total ban, inshore has not been made. The vast majority of North Carolina's inside waters are closed to trawling to reduce and protect juvenile and fish and crabs, to protect oyster reefs, nursery areas, submerged aquatic habitat, vegetation, and other critical habitat. So all that is taken into these management plans. So they are not out there dredging up SAV that juvenile fish are in. I do want to also address the 4-to-1 ratio, as Representative Harrison said. That is out there, and it continues to be out there. But those types of ratios cannot be broadly applied to North Carolina inshore fisheries because they don't consider geographical seasonality or North Carolina's current specific management requirements. And they also come from studies from the 1990s and 2000s. And some of them include for areas outside of North Carolina, or includes the entire southeast and Gulf Coast. And these were stated in the 2015 shrimp management plan that these ratios could actually overestimate bycatch. But they continue to be out there. North Carolina's been leading the way to require bycatch reduction in shrimp trawls. In 1992, North Carolina was the first state on the East Coast to require bycatch reduction devices. These are birds in shrimp trawls. Also, turtle excluder devices are required. In 2015, the Marine Fisheries Commission asked for the further reduction of shrimp trawl bycatch by another 40%. So you got a TED in a shrimp trawl and a bycatch reduction device, and then they want more. So that first device reduces it by 30%. Then they want to add another 40%. So the research was done. It was determined that yes, another bycatch reduction device in these trawls can further reduce bycatch, and that was adopted in the plan. So right now, vessels have turtle excluder devices and 2 biological bycatch reduction devices. So North Carolina is the only fisheries agency, state or federal, that requires this much bycatch reduction in shrimp trawls. Last year, the Marine Fisheries Commission actually adopted another plan. This is after I retired, so I don't know a lot about it, and it was supposed to focus on critical habitat and its particular submerged aquatic vegetation. And it was adopted last year, so more protection is out there. I will say I am a lifelong resident of Pamlico County too. If this ban goes through, it will have an impact on North Carolina's economy and Pamlico County's economy. Consumers won't have access to local shrimp. This will destroy livelihoods. I've heard things about, well, you can recoup those losses. Well, at least in Pamlico County, we don't have the infrastructure to recoup these losses. We are a very rural county. It'll affect welders and trucking and other support industries that support these industries. There are a lot of other smaller trawlers in the fisheries. They're not always the big ones you see out in the ocean. That they cannot safely operate in the ocean. If this passed, small trawlers such as those in Pamlico County will have to steam hours to the inlet. They'll have to either steam 55 miles this way or 42 miles this way to even get to the inlet. That costs money. That will get into their profit margin. So in conclusion, I would just say inside trawling and other commercial and recreational fishing can sustainably exist together. Fisheries management is complex, and the influences on stock health, size, and availability are not singular, and they need to be evaluated and managed through the prescribed process outlined in the 1997 Fisheries Reform Act by the agencies or commissions that were charged with that. There is no evidence that a wholesale ban on inshore trawling will improve fish stocks. And thank you. And I think next, you want me to
No,
get this?
I get it.
You got it.
So we won't get mixed up. We're going right down the line. Want somebody from the industry to step up and say something. I think he knows who he is. Glenn Skinner.
Thank you. All right, I'm Glenn Skinner. I'm a commercial fisherman myself, but also currently I'm the executive director of North Carolina Fisheries Association. You heard a lot kind of disputing the misinformation today. There's a lot of it out there, and that's why something like this deserves a deliberate process and good, cool heads, time for people to talk, educate each other. And as you heard Representative Eiler and others mention, they got no warning. Well, our industry got no warning. This is a calculated attack in our mind. We've been fighting this battle for years. We've had multiple lawsuits, multiple petitions for rulemaking. They've tried through the fishery management plan process to shut this down, and I believe the only reason they haven't shut it down is because the data's not there to support it. And of course, if you don't have the information to support what you're doing, you try something like this, quick, dirty, don't give people time to defend their livelihoods. And in my opinion, that's just what happened. And I can talk about the value of the shrimp fishery, the value of food production. We all know that. As citizens of this state, everybody should be alarmed at what happened to us last week. And I can tell you the House should not get into that. The Senate gave us 2 days to defend our livelihood from the time we saw it until they passed it. And no citizen in a democratic society should have to face that. So I think that's one of the key points that we need to drive home here. Legislation should be based on a need, not greed. And this one is not based on a need. If it was, they would have been able to defend it, and they would have walked it through the process from the beginning of the session like every other bill has. So I'd really like y'all to remember, we deserve better. We deserve a process. We deserve to be able to defend ourselves and educate people. Now, you have heard a whole lot about misinformation, and you're going to hear more about it in the media. The groups who support this trawl ban, like I say, they've been trying the same thing for years. Evidently, their information hasn't worked, so now they've gone to this dirty, quick tactic. And I can tell you, anybody who supports this trawl ban supports what happened last week. Either they were engaged in it and they were the reason it happened, or by default, they support it. And that tells you just what kind of people you're dealing with, in my opinion. So I'm not going to get into the weeds on the issue. I think really right now what we have to focus on is, as citizens, we deserve better, and our state can do better. And I've never been so ashamed of the Senate as I was last week. So I'll be happy to answer questions and do individual interviews at any point, but I'm going to leave it at that for right now. Thank you.
Next, coming up to talk for the waterman, Captain Majette. Is he here? He's not here, okay. Yeah. Well, I put John Millette in his place, Captain John Millette. If y'all don't know who this guy is, he's going to have to explain it to you. Very serious man, especially when it comes to fishing.
How y'all doing? My name is John Millette. I'm owner of Southern Breeze Seafood in Jacksonville, North Carolina. I am a lifelong commercial fisherman and also recreational fisherman as a charter boat captain. I promised myself when I came up here today, I would not speak on emotion. I would just do facts, and that's what I'm going to do my best to stick to. My grandmother used to tell me that the road to hell was paved with good intentions, and that's exactly what this bill is. It started with good intentions, where finally you had recreational fishermen, commercial fishermen alike agreeing on one common goal. And of course, at the last minute, someone had to come in and screw it up. And they had to throw in this amendment at the last minute that threw everything in shambles and crushed it all, and that's why we're here today. The amendment that was added for the shrimp trawl ban is baseless, full of lies, false information, and will cripple a historic industry in North Carolina. A couple things I would do is facts. Trawling off North Carolina has been going on since 1917. That's 108 years. And it's still sustainable. The fishing is still good. There's still plenty of fish around, and shrimping is getting even better, even though the amount of shrimpers is going down. If you've never been on the water or know nothing about shrimping, and you read what this amendment, it would almost make sense. But it doesn't have any context. And that's what I want to give y'all today, is context to this. They say, first of all, that they want to close shrimp trawling to all inland waters in North Carolina. 90% of North Carolina's inland waters are already closed to trawling. That's a fact. Pamlico Sound is the second largest estuarine lagoon on the East Coast besides the Chesapeake Bay. 80 miles long, 20 miles wide, and it accounts for 75% of North Carolina's shrimp landings. They will close that, which will cripple everybody. They talk about how they just want to do what other states are doing, South Carolina, Virginia. That's comparing apples to oranges. Virginia doesn't have a viable shrimp fishery. They just started it just a few years ago when a few shrimp showed up out of the blue, so they had to put something on the books. South Carolina, the water's different. They have more mud flats. You can shrimp offshore there. You can't shrimp offshore in the ocean here more than half a mile because we have too many rocks, ledges. The topography in North Carolina is different. If you ever walk on the beach here and you see how we have so many shells and rocks on the beach, but you go down to Myrtle Beach or Charleston, you don't, that tells you how many rocks are off here. No shrimper is going to go there because they're going to tear up the gear. It doesn't make sense. Common sense is not common, and if you just really look at what they're trying to throw at you, it makes that more obvious than anything. I really would love to get on the whole bycatch thing, but that's going to start a whole argument. But I will tell you, the 4-to-1 ratio is absolutely false. Any shrimper that is going out, you're going to shrimp, not kill a bunch of fish. You make your money off of shrimping. We have these things called tri-nets. It's a little small net that you put off the side of the boat to sample what you're going to catch. If anybody shrimping was to sample and have a 1-to-1 ratio of shrimp to fish, they're not going to put the big nets in the water because it's not worth them going. Nobody, no fisherman is in the business no more than any other business on the planet to work themselves out of a job. That's common sense. But that's what they're throwing at you. So make it make sense. Think about what they're throwing at you, and this should answer all of your questions with what's going on. And as far as the shrimp in North Carolina shrimp are coveted all up and down the East Coast, even into the Gulf, where they have plenty of shrimp as well. In my business alone, I sell shrimp in multiple states. People come ask for North Carolina shrimp specifically because of the quality of what we have with our brown shrimp fishery in the summer, which comes out of Pamlico Sound. The groups that want us to stop inshore trawling say, okay, well, the shrimp in the ocean are bigger, you get more money for them. That is true, you get a little bit more money for those shrimp. But anybody in business, again, common sense, you don't catch as many. You catch way more shrimp. More shrimp are landed in Pamlico Sound probably anywhere from 8 to 10 times the amount that's landed in the ocean, for only maybe on average about a 75-cent per pound difference. So you do the math of where the majority of the money's coming from. It's going to be inshore, so they're effectively going to crush you. And with the government and everybody pushing for more domestic food, whether it's beef, whether it's seafood, whether it's produce, that's what us as commercial fishermen give to the people of the U.S., the citizens of North Carolina, and the country as a whole. And this is taking that away from it, all from special interest groups that don't care about anybody but themselves. There's so many things I want to do, but I want to be good. I promise you I'll be good. I'll close at this is, please say no to Bill 442. It had good intentions. It got railroaded with this amendment that was added onto it. It's flat out wrong. There's no other way around it. Please say no and do the right thing. Thank you.
All righty, that was the first half of the press conference that was done by in Raleigh from the North Carolina legislature. It was on June 24th, Tuesday. I just let it roll, let everything roll, didn't edit it. The only edit I have made is right here because it's so long. I want to divide it into 2 parts. But my primary goal is for you to see what was done, who said what, and not some news report and not some YouTuber editorial anything. I want you to see exactly what's going on. All right, that's all for now. I'm getting ready to get ready for show you the second part. So thanks for watching. Be sure to send me an email, billhitchcock@mail.com, billhitchcock@mail.com. Let me know what you're thinking or post it right here at YouTube. Until next time, see ya.